The new tractor would run on natural gas. If it passed testing, farmers could build low-cost refill stations right on their land. Cleaner, cheaper, more efficient. It could shift the entire market. Just before dessert, Amber asked, "Are you two hoping to settle in South Dakota before school starts?" Karen nodded. "That's the plan." Amber leaned in, eyes bright. "How far is Vermilion from the farm?" "About 30 miles, Karen said. Amber grinned. "Good. I got into the MBA program at USD. Can I live with you? Otherwise, I'll stay with Uncle Joseph. It's cheap and close to home." Karen blinked back tears. I reached across the table and took her hand. "We hoped you'd want to," I said. "The new 4-bedroom house will be finished next month. Pick your room colors." "You plan for us?" Meadow asked. Karen nodded. "We hoped, but we wanted you to choose. If I pushed, you'd blame Colin." "How'd you figure that?" Amber asked. "Colin asked if I trusted you to make your own choices," Karen said. I said yes. "Then let them," I added. "Your bond with your mom's stronger than with your dad anyway." Amber studied me. "That first night, you sized us up. You knew we'd come, didn't you?" I shrugged. "Amber, I knew you'd chase more school." "Meadow, she was the question. But when she brought up respect, I knew." Karen smiled, eyes full of something softer than hope, something earned. "The hardest part," she said, "was trusting it would all work out." We finished dinner, then Karen and I headed to a movie while Amber and Meadow went home. As we stepped outside, I spotted a car pulling into the lot. Kendra's. She didn't recognize me at first. By the time she did, we were already gone. Working on the barn had done me good. The soft middle was gone. I'd hardened up, grown leaner. Looked younger, felt younger. I was peeling back layers I didn't even know I'd buried. After the movie, I dropped Karen off, returned to the hotel, and set a wake-up call. The next morning, security waved me in for the plant tour. This was the part one loved, seeing the machine finished. Seeing it prove itself. By the time the rest of the team showed up, I was already knee-deep in testing. I'd found 2 minor issues, rerouted the feed line away from the heat, and documented everything for the report. When they walked in and saw me, grease on my hands, laser-focused, they stopped mid-stride. Surprised, impressed, and maybe even a little relieved. And it wasn't just the tractor that had changed. I looked different. Healthier. Stronger. Years seemed to have peeled off. The president showed up while I was mid-run, hauling and pushing heavy loads through the mud bed. The machine handled like a dream, smooth and solid under the weight. He laughed when he spotted me. Jeans, white t-shirt, backwards ball cap, driving like I owned the thing. "Colin," he said, shaking his head, "you're still the man. You could probably flip this thing on its head if you tried." He leaned against the fence, arms crossed. "So, first thoughts." I wiped the sweat off my brow and grinned. "If it survives me, it's one of the best we've built. Just a few small tweaks, it's running smooth. Plus, it's burning less fuel than diesel." He stepped forward, offered a handshake. "Good to see you again, Pete." He smiled. "We'd take you back in a second. But looking at you now, I get why you left. Where'd you find the fountain of youth?" What he didn't know? The trick was simple. I tested every machine the same way I tested my first truck. Treat it like junk until it proves it isn't. By day's end, I leaned against the tractor, breathing heavy but satisfied. It held up. 1 down, 9 to go. It was nearing 8 when I finally dragged myself back to the hotel, covered in dry mud from boots to ball cap, looking like I'd fought the machine and won. I stepped into the lobby and spotted Carrie and David. She was gently rocking little Colin in her arms. Carrie caught sight of me first and stood up, walking straight over. "Hey, Dad," she said, giving me a quick once-over. "You're looking rough. You got time to talk, or are you beat?" I glanced at David. He gave me a subtle nod. "We need this." "Yeah," I said, brushing mud off my sleeve. "But let me scrub the dirt off first." David stood and joined us. I motioned toward the elevators. "You two want to hang here or come up to the suite? It's got a kitchen. We can order up or eat down here. Your call." Carrie adjusted little Colin on her hip. "Sweet sounds good. We'll order while you clean up. We need to talk. Like really talk." So up we went. They got busy with room service while I hit the shower. As I buttoned up a clean shirt, my phone buzzed. Karen. I told her what was going on, promised to call her back once we finished. Back in the living room, I cracked open the bottle of Crown Royal I'd brought with me, poured us each a glass. The kids wanted soda, so I gave them a splash, stirred it with my finger. Carrie didn't waste time. "Dad, she said, her eyes fixed on the glass in her hand. David and I, we've been through some serious crap these past couple months. What you caught on that recording, it blew up everything. She took a breath. I actually moved back home last week. David gave a small nod, staying quiet while Carrie kept going. Mom's been talking about her other relationships for years, she said. We honestly thought you knew, like it was some open marriage thing you two had worked out. She made it sound like you were fine with it, like you didn't care anymore. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. I didn't know. Carrie sighed. Yeah, figured. Truth is, she sold us that story about you and her having different drives, different needs. I was buying it. Until all this, David added, his voice worn thin. We were damn near done, Mr. Walker. Couldn't get past it. Carrie even took a polygraph. We didn't trust where we were heading. I nodded. Look, I hope you both know you've been dealt a bad hand here. That's going to take time to work through. But if you're serious about fixing it, you've got a shot. Just don't try to patch it up with bullshit. Carrie gave a small, sad smile. I reached over and took little Colin into my arms. The kid settled against my shoulder like he belonged there. Warm, soft, peaceful. David, I said, grab my phone. Take a picture, will you? He didn't say a word, just nodded and snapped the photo. Carrie kept going. I realized I was acting like Mom, justifying everything, thinking it was normal. Turns out, it's not. I didn't even see it until I stopped to really think. I hate it. It's like I didn't know who I was becoming. David spoke next, his voice low but steady. I'm starting to see someone different too, and I think we've got more than just a slim chance. I leaned back, gently bouncing Colin. It takes work, and honesty, and sometimes someone outside the family to help sort through the mess. Don't be too proud for that. I paused, then added, your mom? She let other people, other voices, screw with her head until she tossed everything we built like it was junk. And yeah, I'm sure she's still blaming me. Carrie snorted. She is. I told my sisters straight up, I'm done listening to Mom twist this crap just to make herself feel better. I've got a marriage I'm not ready to lose. We fought about it. I told them, when they finally pull their heads out of their then maybe we can talk. David chuckled nervously. Right then, room service knocked. We let them in, plates and silverware clattering onto the table. Over dinner, Carrie looked up and asked, you want some diet or something? You're looking fit. I laughed, wiping my mouth with a napkin. Nah, I said, chuckling. Just been working with my hands again. Not sitting behind some desk, wasting away. Feels good. By 10, they were getting ready to head out. Carrie hugged me tight, held on a second longer than usual, and whispered, I like this version of you, Dad. I smiled. Yeah, well, turns out there was more of me left than I thought. I just needed the old life to clear out so I could find it. Later that night, I texted Karen to see if she was still up. She was, so I called, told her about the day. People say time heals all wounds. It doesn't. It just teaches you how to live with them. Faith and hope were learning that the hard way. Tuesday night, around 7, I walked into the hotel lobby, and there they were, my two youngest, waiting for me. First thought? Kendra sent them. I was right. Back in my suite, they went straight at me, accusing me of abandoning their mother. In their eyes, I was the coward. Not her. They admitted their marriages were over. Just like mine. Their husbands, they said, couldn't handle modern women. That's how they put it. I'd had enough. I called security. The guard showed up fast. Took one look and asked, you want them out, sir? I nodded. Out the back, please. Faith and Hope left crying, humiliated. As they passed through the back hallway, one of the guards muttered, we don't need that kind of company in here. I called Karen afterward. She couldn't stop laughing. They'll be thinking about that one for a while, she said. Without love, someone always pays, one way or another. Mind if I tell Amber and Meadow? Go ahead, I said. Might as well light the fuse. A couple hours later, Carrie called. Well done, Dad, she said. They came here bawling. It finally hit them. Their choices stink just like everyone else's. They didn't even let me explain, I said. Didn't want one, she replied. All they cared about was making sure you were the villain. They'll see it, she added. David and I did. He actually liked how you handled it. We're starting to get it now. She paused. How did Mom convince us it was all okay? Faith and Hope are hurting bad. It'll take time. I kept it simple. Carrie, did you ever stop to think about what it did to me? Or did you only think about yourselves? She went quiet. Then softly, Mom painted it all in soft colors. Made everything seem fine. We couldn't see the truth until it all blew up. That's how most people live, Carrie, I said. They never question what's right in front of them. She looked at me, quiet for a second. What's different about you? You're learning it now, I told her. It's called thinking. Welcome to my world. Sorry you had to take the hard road to get here. The next night, I went to Karen's for dinner. Amber and Meadow were already there, ready to start planning the move. Over a simple meal, I shared what Carrie had told me. After dinner, we did the dishes together. I washed, the girls dried. It felt like something out of an old memory. At least until they caught Karen and me sneaking a kiss by the sink. Amber grinned. Busted. Meadow rolled her eyes. You two are worse than teenagers. We all laughed. And for a moment, it felt like life again. Around 8, Karen and I headed to a small restaurant by the pier, just the two of us. Candlelight. The scent of fresh seafood. The soft lull of waves through the open windows. One of those nights you try to remember, even while it's still happening. We'd just started to relax, sipping our drinks, leaning in close, when I spotted them. The twins. Faith and Hope, walking in like ghosts from another life. Before I could duck, pretend I didn't see them, the host appeared at our table, looking uneasy. Excuse me, he said. Your daughters noticed you missed their wave. They were wondering if you'd mind them joining you. I froze. Truth was, I didn't know if I wanted them anywhere near this dinner. Karen gave me a soft nudge under the table. Say yes, she whispered. You may not like them right now, but you still love them. They're your girls. I let out a slow breath. She wasn't wrong. Yeah, I said, standing. Sure, bring them over. I slid in beside Karen. A minute later, Faith and Hope approached. It was all over their faces, nerves, regret, a little pride still hanging on. They sat like kids waiting for the principal to speak. I didn't sugarcoat it. Faith. Hope. This is Karen. She's not just my lawyer, she's my girlfriend. If you're here to tear into me again, just save it and walk out now. Faith glanced at Hope, then back at me. No, Dad, we deserve that. She rubbed the back of her neck, eyes everywhere but mine. We had a long talk with Carrie Tuesday night. She didn't hold back. Kinda kicked our A, honestly. Hope nodded. Yeah, we went over there thinking she'd back us up. Instead, she wrecked us. Laid it all out. Told us how we looked. How we acted. How ugly it all was. Faith's eyes started to fill. She said we were basically being paid off like hookers. Not for sex, Faith said, voice shaking a little. But for playing along, living out Mom's version of the story. We got perks for staying blind. Hope added. And the worst part? We realized she was right. Carrie was right. We weren't just surviving, trying to get by like people stuck in bad situations. We did it because it was fun. Because we thought we were untouchable. It hit different after Carrie said it. Faith leaned in, voice lower now. When we got home, we cornered Mom. It blew up. Fast. She said we'd been brainwashed by your conservative bullcrap. Hope scoffed. And then she said it. So what if people get hurt? They should toughen up. She meant it, Dad. Said the only crime is getting caught. Started ranting about how even politicians do worse and walk away clean. Faith shook her head. She's got no shame. Still doesn't. But we finally saw it for what it is. We're teachers, Hope said. We tell kids right from wrong every damn day, but we've been living like none of it applied to us. She exhaled, slow and steady. So we found a place. Small 2-bedroom, furnished, near the school. Cheap enough. We signed a 6-month lease. Figured it's time we figure out who we are, without Mom whispering in our ears. Faith's voice cracked. We're moving in tomorrow. Mom's off schmoozing at some political thing anyway. When we saw you tonight, we knew we had to say something. We were wrong about all of it, Hope said. About you. And we get why you didn't confront us, Faith added. It would have just been 4 against 1. You knew we had to see it for ourselves. I took a deep breath. Sometimes the only way through is letting people fall on their own. Then, quieter. Truth is, you were already forgiven. I saw how much of your mess was just you following your mother's lead. Kendra, I'll forgive. But I'll never trust her again. I slid my phone across the table. Put your numbers in. And take mine. They both did without hesitation. Hope glanced at the screen. Dad, this is a South Dakota number? I smirked. Yeah. Moved back to the farm. Faith lit up like a kid. No way, Grandpa's farm. Karen raised an eyebrow. You two know the place? Hope laughed. Know it. We lived there. Every summer growing up. Learned to drive on Grandpa's old tractor. Faith added. Dad made sure we went every year, until we got too cool for it in high school. We never even got a single call from Mom while we were there. Grandma used to say Mom was the shallowest woman she ever met, Faith said, smirking. Karen chuckled. I can believe that. Faith leaned in a little. So, Dad, what brings you to town? Then she looked at Karen. And Karen, can we get your number too? Just in case. Just like that, dinner shifted. The weight lifted. It wasn't about the past anymore. It felt like family. We laughed, swapped stories, talked about the new house Karen and I were building. The twins got curious about Karen's daughters, what they were like, what they thought of all this. Then, right in the middle of dessert, Hope's phone buzzed. She glanced down and read the text out loud. Having dinner with Dad and his girlfriend Karen. Faith and I will swing by later to explain everything. Later that night, Karen and I walked the pier, hands brushing, hearts a little lighter. I'm surprised, she said. You stepping back, it forced them to sort it out themselves. My dad used to say, give someone enough rope, they'll hang themselves, I replied. If I'd stayed, it would have been 4 against 1. But I left, and they turned on each other. Their own sense of right and wrong did the work. Karen nodded slowly. Evil only works if someone's willing to carry it out. Most people just blame others. You were the scapegoat. I couldn't go along with it, I said. I wouldn't. That's what makes you solid, she said. You don't bend, just because you're outnumbered. Meanwhile, across town, Kendra came home late. Another political event, her mind still spinning with appearances and applause. She'd hoped to patch things up with the twins. Their last fight had cut deep, too much of my backbone showing through, and she couldn't stomach it. She tossed her purse onto the counter, then spotted 2 house keys and a folded note. We've moved out. We don't like who we've become. Good luck. We blocked your number. Faith and Hope. Later, Carrie found her still standing there, frozen. I haven't heard from them since Tuesday, Carrie said. Since Dad had security toss them out of the Hampton. Kendra snapped her head around. He threw them out? What? They went after him hard, Mom, Carrie said calmly. Called him a coward. Blamed him for everything. He listened for a bit, then said, I'm done, and called security. Carrie smirked. Security thought they were hookers. Showed them the back door. That's not funny, Kendra whispered, voice shaking. When they showed up crying, they told me everything, Carrie said. Want to know what I told them? Kendra hesitated. Maybe. Carrie shrugged. I said, when those men were whining and dining you, you weren't special. You were just getting paid early. Kendra's face went blank. The tears came fast. No defenses left, just raw realization. She saw it, clear as day. In that moment, the truth settled in her chest like a stone. She would never face Colin again. Not as an equal, not as a partner. What Carrie had said, it wasn't cruelty. It was Colin's truth. And it shattered everything. There was no spinning it. No framing it in soft tones. It was brutally simple. Those romantic weekends, those affairs she brushed off as harmless escape, they were nothing more than paid services in disguise. Colin hadn't needed to scream, accuse, or drag her through the mud. By walking away, he said everything, and left her sitting with it. It took weeks for her to process. The truth wasn't that he left her. The truth was, she had left him, long ago. With every choice, every lie, every whispered manipulation. The twins were proof of what she'd passed down. No man could stay after seeing it for what it really was. And if the truth ever got out, she knew she was finished. Colin knew it too, yet he didn't expose her. He left her with something she never gave him, her dignity. Now even her daughters were pulling away, and Kendra realized it too late. There was no scapegoat left. She looked around the house, too big, too quiet, too full of ghosts. She'd tell herself she was selling it for practical reasons. But deep down, she knew better. Karen and I got back to her place after a night out. A few drinks, a little dancing. We passed out on the couch, tangled in content. Amber and Meadow didn't waste the moment. They snapped a few photos, grinning, and sent them straight to Faith and Hope. Minutes later, the phone buzzed. The 4 of them were already planning something. One of them even tossed a blanket over us, like kids tucking in their parents. When I woke, I found an angel asleep in my arms. Karen looked peaceful. I checked my phone. Past 7 a.m. We'd crashed around 1. Meadow was sitting nearby, watching us with a sly grin. Guess I better get used to this, she said. Mom looks happy. I'll make coffee. An hour later, the 4 of us were around the kitchen table, coffee mugs in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Then came the surprise. By the way, Karen said casually, Our side of the family's coming over this afternoon. Little get-together. Karen and I leapt into motion. I checked the grill, topped off the propane. She threw on a clean outfit and scribbled a grocery list. We made a quick stop at my suite so I could shower and change, then headed to the store. And as we were walking in, there she was. Kendra. Walking out. She stopped dead in front of me, arms crossed. Her voice tried to sound calm, but her eyes gave her away. Tired, hollow, haunted. She looked like hell. Colin, Kendra said flatly, not even blinking. Let the girls know I'm selling the house. If they want anything, Carrie still has a key. Since none of them are speaking to me, they can swing by while I'm at work and grab whatever. She paused. Same goes for you. I didn't flinch. I'll pass it along, I said. Karen will handle anything for me. I'm giving her power of attorney. I met her eyes. And as for me, I already took what mattered when I left. I'm only in town for another 6 days. Kendra gave a small nod, like she wasn't sure if she wanted to say more or just turn and walk. In the end, she walked, heels clicking down the aisle like everything was perfectly normal. Karen and I stood there a beat longer, then pushed the cart down the next aisle. Awkward, Karen muttered under her breath. We kept shopping, the silence heavy until I finally broke it. Something's off with her, I said. She's not just cold. She looked rattled. You think it's the twins moving out? Karen asked. I shook my head. No. She's used to being alone when the girls were off doing their thing. This is different. She loves that house. Selling it? That's not like her. Something hit her harder than she's letting on. Karen glanced at me. You still care what happens to her? I sighed. Not like that. But I know her. And I know when she's hiding something. During the barbecue, we found out exactly what the twins had written to their mother and what Carrie said afterward. All 5 girls got along like old friends, picking up a rhythm that felt earned. David and I mostly hung back, watching it unfold. Amber and Meadow couldn't get enough of little Colin. Neither could Karen, truth be told. Later, I told my daughters about the grocery store run-in. David smirked. I called dibs on the big plasma TV. Carrie rolled her eyes. I laughed harder than I expected. The first 2 family get-togethers had gone smoother than I could have dreamed. After the girls left and the cleanup was done, Karen and I sank into the porch chairs with a couple cold beers. So, Amber said, joining us briefly, faith and hope cut ties with your ex, at least for now. Trying to figure out who they are without her. Karen frowned. Why would they do that? They followed their mother's lead, I said. Got caught up in the friends with benefits lifestyle. Cost them both their marriages. It took me leaving Kendra for them to finally see it. Last week, they showed up at my hotel, ready to blame me for all of it. I threw them out, I said. Later, Carrie told them straight. When your friends with benefits were whining and dining you, you were just getting paid in advance. Amber blinked. Seriously? David spoke gently. Your mother and I were taught early. It's not just about how you see yourself. It's about how others read you. They judge your actions, not your intentions. Karen leaned into me. Exactly. That's why Colin's choices hit harder than anything he said. The twins realized they needed to step back and figure out who they really are. I added. I'm proud of them. They've started healing because they got honest. The words sank in. The porch went quiet for a beat. Then Amber grinned. You're going to make a great dad. Karen lost it, laughing and crying in the same breath, burying her face into my shoulder. I wrapped an arm around her. The rest of the week passed quietly, peacefully. Karen and I soaked in every moment. The new tractor passed every single test. The president was over the moon. I called it beta, a quiet nod to what was coming next. Before heading home, we had one last family gathering. The twins and Karen's daughters bonded like sisters. Karen barely let go of little Colin all evening. Karen and Eric finalized their divorce. She offered him the house. He took it, still chasing the girls, trying to fix what couldn't be undone. I flew home the final week of August. The new house stood ready. Fresh paint, clean lines, full of light. The old one had been torn down. The barn was repaired, the driveway rebuilt. Uncle John picked me up from the airport. I'd return soon, this time driving a U-Haul. Karen had sold her practice. Her associate would wrap up the final paperwork. Back at the farm, deliveries came in daily. Uncle John helped set up furniture. Whatever didn't fit went to Goodwill. Neighbors stopped by with food, hands, stories. That Friday, Karen met me at the airport with Amber and Meadow. As soon as I saw her, I kissed her, then dropped to one knee. The girls filmed the whole thing. Amber and Meadow had planned a celebration dinner, kept it a secret. All 5 daughters and David showed up. We danced most of the night under patio lights and old love songs. Later, at Karen's house, Meadow stopped us in the hallway. "Wait in the car," she said, a mischievous glint in her eye. She and Amber came back with a bag. "Sweets booked," Amber grinned. "You're not coming home till Monday." At the hotel, we found champagne, chocolates, and a handwritten note. "Congrats, from your 5 daughters." We didn't leave all weekend. Monday morning, we picked up the U-Haul. I stared at it, raising a brow. "Why is it so big?" I asked. Karen just smirked. "Because we're not starting over small." Karen smiled. "You'll see." Later that day, Faith and Hope pulled up. "We're moving east," Faith said, her voice steady. "We got hired near Vermilion." Karen lit up and handed over some extra furniture without hesitation. We loaded the truck with the things they'd taken from Kendra's house. Books, lamps, a few boxes of memories they finally wanted to reclaim. They'd rented a 3-bedroom place, just in case Amber needed a spot during storms. I dropped the suit against Eric after he agreed to cover the court costs. No fanfare, just closure. By late September, Karen and I finalized our divorces. All the ties cut, all the weight gone. On the last Saturday of October, we married, simple, honest, and surrounded by the people who mattered. Every daughter was there. Carrie and David brought little Colin, who toddled down the aisle with the rings in his tiny hands. Then, just when it seemed like the day couldn't carry more joy, Karen stepped forward, eyes shining. "To my husband," she said, her voice catching slightly, "and to all of you. We're expecting in May." Gasps, cheers, laughter. Carrie's hand flew to her mouth. David stared wide-eyed. Amber burst into tears. "We don't know yet," Karen added with a smile, "if it's a boy or a girl. But we do know it's love."